Thank you very much. I'd also like to welcome everyone to today's exciting meeting. And I'd like to thank the forum, particularly Veronica and Jer, for inviting us to collaborate with them once again on an extremely important topic, that is safety issues and pre-exposure prophylaxis. I'd also like to state that the forum represents a preeminent example of a successful public-private partnership. And again, we're very happy to be collaborating with them today and in the future. As Veronica mentioned, we've assembled PrEP stakeholders from academia, government, pharmaceutical companies, advocacy groups, and insurance companies. But I wanted to remind everyone that today's meeting is not an FDA advisory committee, and we're not here to provide advice to one particular sponsor. But rather, we're here to enjoy a workshop filled with exciting presentations and discussion to be able to tease out and explore the role of PrEP in the prevention toolbox for use with other prevention modalities, to be able to reduce the risk of acquisition of HIV, and to test and bring more people into treatment. The trials that you see on this slide form the basis of the discussions today. These are landmark studies, beginning with IPREX, and Bob Grant will be presenting that data. Then the CDC TDF2 study, and Lynn Paxton will be presenting that data. Then we'll have a presentation on FemPrep by Lud Van Dam. The University of Washington's Partners PrEP study will be presented by Connie Kellum. There are two other studies on this slide. CDC study 4323, which we won't be discussing, and HPTN 052, but clearly they contribute to our knowledge database as we move forward with a pathway for PrEP. Well, we're all very excited about the results of the trials that have been presented. There have been press releases, presentations at international meetings, publications. But we need to keep in mind that we need to balance benefit with risk, and that's the topic of today's meeting. So what we need to balance is the protective benefits with the risk of development or acquisition of resistant HIV-1 variants, toxicity of long-term antiretroviral therapy, behavioral compensation, such as condom migration, and additional public health issues, such as acquisition of other sexually transmitted infections. Panel discussions will focus on these topics, such as safety and public health concerns, access and implementation, and we'll have perspectives from regulatory, CDC, insurance companies, and the pharmaceutical industry. There'll be a panel on next steps and then a summary of today's meeting. There's some other considerations that I'd like to put out before we begin our discussions today and presentations. And they are, I would like the panels and the audience to consider, if approved antiretrovirals for treatment are being considered for PrEP, then access to PrEP should not negatively impact access to treatment. And we were happy to see the CDC guidance regarding PrEP that was published a few months ago. But consideration should also be given to in-depth review of other data sets and inspection of clinical trial sites to be able to put PrEP into context to allow additional patient groups access to this prevention modality. So we feel that PrEP matters. Overall, PrEP would encourage more HIV testing among high-risk groups. And as you're aware, many HIV-infected persons are unaware of their serostatus. With more HIV testing, then more HIV-positive patients would be brought into treatment, and with more treatment, then hopefully there would be a decrease in new infections. Let's look at a recent publication by the CDC that appeared actually this month that looked at the epidemic. And this is on a background of a stable infection rate of 50,000 new infections per year. The CDC questions whether or not is this sustainable. Why do they ask that? Well, CDC estimates MSM represent approximately 2% of the U.S. population, but account for more than 50% of all new infections from 2006 to 2009. In particular, young Black MSM is the only population in the U.S. to experience a statistically significant increase of 48% in new HIV infections over the 4-year period 2006 to 2009. Clearly, there's an ongoing need for effective prevention strategies. I'd like to end with this excerpt from the National HIV/AIDS Strategy for the United States that was published in July of 2010. And it states that we must move away from thinking that one approach to HIV prevention will work, whether it's condoms, pills, or information. Instead, we need to develop, evaluate, and implement effective prevention strategies and combinations of approaches. To successfully reduce the number of HIV infections or new HIV infections, there must be a concerted effort by public and private sectors, including government at all levels, individuals, and communities, to intensify prevention efforts in communities where HIV is most heavily concentrated, to educate all Americans about the threat of HIV and how to prevent it, and to expand targeted efforts to prevent HIV infection using a combination of effective evidence-based approaches. Thank you very much, and we all look forward to a very productive meeting, and thank you again.